This will be a space for honest and respectful conversation. This will not be a space for debate or argument. And if we get into those, because we know that we're going to be in situations where people may not agree with what we're saying. So the argument is just be respectful, let them have their opinion, showcase what the facts actually are, and then may God will look. It's not for me to beat anyone like go ahead, man. If you can dig it.
We can dig it.
So let's just begin by just interviewing. Now I know everybody shook hands, but just for the sake of it becoming a conversation, you need to know each other. So I'm Jerry from Cornersburg.
I'm Larry from Struthers.
I'm Mark from Youngstown.
I'm Clinton from Liberty.
Dory from Cornersburg.
Blair from Cornersburg.
All right. Now, before we go any further, we do need to look at reality. So I'm gonna give you a couple of slides that I want you to see, but we have to establish common ground as to where we are. Ohio has 88 counties. Last year, 2025, there were 25,135 abortions in the state of Ohio.
That is
a lot.
blowing.
And that is from the Ohio Department of Health. So this is a 35-page booklet that came out on March 1st. So this is something that you can download on your phone, your laptop, what have you, right? But 25,135 abortions, which was a 15% increase from 2024. The counties that Voices for Life serve, which are Mahoning, Trumbull, and Columbiana, you can see the stats up there. And you see that word residents. We're going to come back to that residents in a minute. But 335 in Mahoning, 257 in Trumbull, and 70 in Columbia, which is 662 abortions in the 3 counties that we serve alone. Now, don't just look at the numbers, look at the statistics, look at the lives. These are babies who are not born. I'm going to get personal real quick. Just say I grew up in an era in the 70s where my cousins from Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee, they had like 11 kids. 13 kids was nothing to go down south and be with my 13, 14 cousins.
Yeah.
And my family, they thought my family was small. I just had me, Waz, and Michelle, right? And they thought, oh, you need to have some more babies.
Yeah.
But it seems like the trend is going the opposite direction. But again, these are not statistics. Just now, to look at the total stats and the sources, you see down over in green, the sources that we pull these numbers from are from the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, the Guttmacher Institute, and the WHO, which is the World Health Organization. We were just talking about Ohio, but to scale it out and look at the United States, approximately 1.13 million babies gone. Globally, 73 million babies. That's a whole other country right there, which averages out to approximately 200,000 abortions per day globally. About 29% of all pregnancies end of abortion, about 61% of all unintended pregnancies, and unfortunately, in abortion. So up top, those numbers go up to how many abortions that one lady has had. And so you see where there's 391, where the woman unfortunately has had 5 or more abortions. So they've tracked everything. They tracked total residents. Now, this is smaller than 25,000. This is 2024 number. This is 25 number. Why is that smaller than that 25,000 number? Is because these were Ohio residents. But people who are coming from out of state to Ohio, because Ohio now is an abortion state, people from Kentucky and Indiana and get their abortions. That's why you see that number. And that would be after the 25,000. Again, 15% increase. And this medication telehealth, I'm sure everybody in this room has heard of the abortion bill. So that's on the rise from surgical abortions. So that's what we're talking about. I'm going to show you one more slide. All right, 2 more.
I'm talking about, my kids see me, your dad, they seen that stuff. Not talking about it. So, the spirituality aspect is definitely what is missing. So, thank God that the church prayed. That's all, God intervened with my daughter, because my abortion, my appointment was set. And my doctor called a couple days before that abortion and told my mother, your daughter cannot have an abortion, because not only will the fetus die, but your daughter will die, because she has placenta previa, which means my placenta sac was before my child. So my mother called my father right away. And my father said, we're not doing it.
Social media has just compounded it. That's
For
1,000 times.
For sure.
It's become like, it's almost like it's normal. Oh, I have sex
It is.
today, get pregnant, I'll just go do this. Or
I'll get the pill.
like I was saying, homosexuality, we have to find a way to open the door at least to get the conversation started. And one thing I've also learned is we gotta quit using fear to get these conversations.
Yes.
You can't use fear. You have to engage them and tell them like, okay, this is why you want to do this and why you shouldn't do this. You can't use fear tactics. That's right. That's just my opinion.
No, that's a good opinion. Yeah. I think there's a lot of tactics. You talked about the quote unquote black church. There's a lot of tactics in growing up in it, and you can look back after 61 years ago. You know what I mean? That is just, but it takes a
Right.
When it didn't open up doors the first time, now let's knock on that door again. Let's keep knocking on that door until someone answers. We need to have this kind of educational class in the church, because one of the informational pieces that really got to my heart is that there was a lot of young women in the church who were having abortions. And I was, I can relate because it's not being spoken.
It's not.
And they don't know what to do.
Right.
They don't know what to say. They don't even have anyone that they feel as though that they can run to that's not going to judge them.
In the church, and that's so sad.
have known two that did not follow. One for sure, one we're about, I'd say 99% sure, but it's the hardest part is not being able to see the fruit right away. But the seed planting, I mean, sometimes all these trees, it takes decades and decades for these trees to grow for anything really. You want to plant an apple tree or an orange tree or something to grow fruit actually to eat. It's going to take a long time. And that's one thing that I've had to learn to be content with throughout all of this is God can use this in 15 years. He can use it in 20 years, or it might be 50 years for some of these people. They have this trigger, remember something that they heard, and the Lord uses that to save them. So that's been trusting God and His sovereignty with all of this is what keeps me going, because we see it all the time every weekend. It's hard.
She spoke about it from the pulpit. That was the first time. And then secondly, Bishop Patrick L. Wooden Sr. from the Upper Room Church of God in Christ in North Carolina. We heard him weekly. He says something, no matter what his message is, he will say something about the unborn. He will say something about life. He will say something about us sacrificing our children. Wrong is. He says that but we thought if we could get pastors around here to have a sermon on Sanctity of Life Sunday, that's one Sunday out of the whole year.
But it's a matter of being uncomfortable, because it's a hard topic, it's a divisive topic, but we have to just stick to the scriptures. I mean, the gospel, for goodness sake, is the most divisive thing in the history of the world. Jesus Christ says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except by me." And the world saying, "Hold on a second, that's not my truth." I'm like, I'm sorry, that's the truth. I know that may offend you, but this is the truth, and I love it enough to tell you the truth.
And that's beautiful and rare, because most churches don't do any sort of evangelism whatsoever. And they've gone from like in times past, saying we need to go out into the world.
Yeah.
And now have turned it into, let's get people into the church.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll meet them. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be taking people to church, but the church is not going out into the world anymore whatsoever, let alone outside of the abortion. Secondly, I think there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, which we talked about in our meeting with the pastors that we met with. And what I mean by that is we say as Christians that abortion is murder, and we believe it, I think, to a certain degree, but not to the degree that would propel us to action. And if this was, or if these were mothers bringing their toddlers into this clinic and we could see with our eyes, we would all be out there losing our minds.
Yeah.
There would not be any sort of hesitation or, oh, what are they going to think? Or is my tone right? Or whatever. There would be no hesitation about it. But because we've been so affected and so brainwashed by the culture as well, we don't see it as it is.
I think you go back to your point, with respect to pastors that are not necessarily preaching what they believe is an impalatable gospel. Just go to the short letter of Jude. And he reminds us that there are those that have crept in to the church. So, most of the times when entities crumble, and let's face it, we are the church. We don't go to church, we are the church. And so when entities crumble, it's usually from within. And I think that's what's happening now. And I think, we're no different today than 2 centuries ago, 2,000 years ago. Human nature has remained the same.
Yeah, and like you talk about education and like what you were saying, a lot of what you said is the clump of cells, just the devaluing of human life. Same thing that people did to Black people in the 1800s, just dehumanizing a person created in the image of God just so wickedly. But it goes back to what Romans 1 says about people suppressing the truth of righteousness.
Yeah.
There's an escort. We pray for her all the time. Her name's Beth. Jerry knows exactly what I'm talking about. Madre. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So from time to time, she will just like that Freudian slip, will use the word baby, has flat out said this is a human life, but a lot of times we'll go back to this is not human. And we gotta say, well, what is it? Is it a dolphin? Is it a whale? What is it? They say it's a fetus. Okay, yeah, sure. Latin, great. We can call offspring if you want to.
That's right.
What kind of fetus?
Yeah.
Human. Thank you so much. And then they kind of get themselves in that trap where they just admitted it's obvious.
Even Charlie Kirk had those debates on college campuses with kids.
It's had like we've seen some other stuff from people that go on college campuses. And Lindsay and I made a comment. It's like it's so just I hate to say it this way, but they're so insufferable. Like, how can you say the things that you're saying? May God have mercy on your soul. And they're talking about the basic thing, like when sperm meets an egg, there's a human life right there. That is undeniable. There was a study of biologists, there were several thousand involved. 96% of them said of the biologists, most of them of whom were not Christians, it was secular, said that life begins at conception. Only 4% didn't. So you have the overwhelming majority of the biologists that were surveyed here. This is a human life. We've known this for decades. We've known this, and we're going back to like this.
I just have a little bit of gentle pushback on the education part, which I do think is very important. But I think that it mostly doesn't come down to people not knowing. It's that they pretend like they don't.
Sure.
And the reason why I say that is because one, our experience outside of the abortion clinic, do you know this is your baby? Yes, this is my baby and I have the right to kill it.
Yeah.
But two, we live in the most educated and most accessible generation that has ever lived. We can literally find anything that we want to know at just a tap of a button.
Sure.
And the most educated. And so like, if you think back to like biblical times, everyone knew what they were pregnant with. And everyone I still think knows what they're pregnant with, but like Zach said, it's the suppression of truth. And also, obviously, the lies of the culture, this is just a pump of cells. And so I do think that there is importance to education in the sense that like, this is what's going on at this stage. But I think in our experience, most of the women don't care. They think this is my right. I know it's my child. I know it's my baby. And I have a right to do this because it's my life and I'm going to do what I want.
No, I understand what you're saying. But I think some of the stuff, some of the education that may be fundamentally sound is being clouded by indoctrination.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say I agree with that.
Absolutely.
And I think that part, you know, there's this
have
this
that
very
right.
thin
Where do you
line.
get that
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's the entity of, or the decision of the right for self. And we've become such a self-centered society that myself supervenes that self that's living inside it. So where does your right start and their right stop? You know, because they're not outside of the womb, does that deprive them of their right? So yeah, I agree. You have a right to do with your body whatever you wish to do. That's your body. You don't have the right to do it with their body.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the argument that's sometimes difficult to get through because just as Lindsay said, they just don't care.
Well,
Which is an unfortunate thing.
and the other thing is we can't rely on the educational system to do what we should be doing at home.
Absolutely.
And so this has to be a family issue too, and the church teaching the family and that sort of thing.
This is what we are up against. So just having, if all of us in this room talk to our families, it would be a very uncomfortable moment.
Yeah.
But it would definitely be a seed planted.
The church is not in its place that it needs to be in.
Right.
And it wants to speak about anything else but what saves lives. And they're consistently hiding behind the fact that there is a problem. And we as the church should be ahead of it instead of standing behind it. And I believe that if we consistently knock, they call it boots on the ground. If we consistently knock, that pretty soon they're going to have to answer to the fact that where is the church?
Yeah, I can see too, bro. God bless you. I think.
Oh, yeah, it's been seeing.
Donna? Okay, Donna, Zach, good to meet you. Yes, and then Yes. Good to meet you. Yes, sir.
Yeah.